Neville Goddard, 1959 lectures, The Only Christianity, November 10th, 1959. Here we believe firmly that imagining is God, that the supreme power of the universe is one with human imagining. So when you read the Bible, a fabulous inspired book, and you come to the word God, you can also use the word imagining, and you will get a clearer understanding of it. Romans 4:20, no distrust made him, Abraham, waver concerning the promise of God, but he grew strong in his faith as he gave glory to God, fully convinced that God was able to do what he had promised. Faith was in there, and it was very important. He grew strong in his faith, and as he gave glory to God. That's your imagination. When you read it, you might think of some being external to your own imagination. Could you now dream of being the man or woman you want to be? Could you now dream of that? That dream is a promise. We are told that he was not swerved by anything in the world and gave all the glory to God. Or imagining. If you see these guys finish a NASCAR race and they're giving all glory to somebody that it appears they are claiming is outside of themselves, but if you reimagine the end of a NASCAR race and they're giving all the glory to their imagination, that's what you hear when you're using Simon Peter in your hearing. You're hearing the revised version when they're sitting there saying, all glory be to my imagination. That's what you hear. In their reality, they're giving all glory to something that they think is outside of themselves. That's okay. We're not here to judge. We're here to use this in a fun manner. But there seems to be a large claim that all glory should go to something outside. We know this. We're not here to fight that battle. What we want to do is create an understanding within ourselves that that glory is to our imagination. If you can imagine yourself being the man or woman you want to be, then that dream is a promise. We are told he was not swerved by anything in the world and gave all the glory to God, or imagining, fully convinced that God could do what he had promised. If it becomes an image and you can dream it, therein is his promise. You wouldn't even be able to imagine it if it couldn't be a promise. It wouldn't fit here if it couldn't manifest in your life by you, by giving your faith to it. If you believe what the churches teach, you may think that you are not entitled to the good that you desire. Read Romans 1:20. Ever since the creation of the world, his invisible nature, namely his eternal power and deity, has been clearly perceived in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. For although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him. But they became futile in their thinking, and their senseless minds were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man or birds or animals or reptiles. And then they worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator. I tell you that he is speaking of this immortal being in everything that was made. Even the suit you are wearing, someone has to first imagine it. The first thing imagined is the invisible image, and then it becomes externalized as a hat or a suit or a house. Today, a friend called me concerning a personal problem. She said, quote, You said your father was objective vision. Excuse me, has objective vision. He could see the images of his imagining as real as the forms of nature. I knew this is true. The whole vast world that he built for his 10 children, he built out of his wonderful imagination. He would sit alone and conjure before him men and women and see situations as he wanted to see them. Now we're talking about Neville's dad. He would sit in the armchair after breakfast and literally, as Neville just described, conjure his situations for the day that was before him and see his successful business ventures in front of his imagination, in front of his mind as he sat there. Then he would go about his day and these events would happen literally for him, by him actually. It's very fascinating that, again, I'm going to repeat this anyway, but it's fascinating that Neville's family had this inclination. His father did it in his own. Neville ended up being somebody that discovered it in his own from Abdullah and then taught it and then blew it wide open. And then his brother Victor also used it to imagine the building that was to become Goddard Enterprises and then begin that whole business venture that the dad created, which he just mentioned, and left all the sons and daughter independently wealthy when he left this reality. So it's fascinating, that family, and all it takes is focused imagination. Very, very simple. It doesn't cost you anything. Here we go. Today, a friend called me concerning a personal problem. She said, "You said your father has objective vision. He could see the images of his imagining as real in the forms of nature. I knew this is true. The whole vast world that he built for his 10 children, he built out of his wonderful imagination. He would sit alone and conjure before him men and women and see situations as he wanted to see them. And then he would arrest that state just before sleep, and he controlled it completely. This is what I want for you. I control my life. I want the same for you." He controlled it completely. And when he later returned to his offices and these things came to pass, he was not surprised. Others set the deals in motion that he had already seen in his mind's eye. You literally put the wheels in motion for your experience. It's coming from you. This lady called to tell me about her sister's husband. Her father had opposed the marriage and had said that this man would never be any good. And he had set forth in detail just what he would do. He said, "He will father your child, but he will not support it. He will live in a bar, and he will always be worthless." This man has fulfilled that prophecy in every detail. Her father was a powerful figure in the theater and disliked his son-in-law and prophesied his future, and it has come true in detail. I told this lady a story about a prophecy of my father's years ago. In 1919, at the turn of the year, I could see my father at the head of the table and all of his children sitting there, and he said to my mother, "There will be a war in 20 years. Wilsey, W-I-L-S-E-Y. It will be in the fall. Germany will again be at war with England. Japan will be in it, and Russia and Italy. America will be our great ally." My mother looked around the table at her sons and said, "My boys will be of the age to go to that war. What are you talking about?" He said, "It will be true, and already all the ships are discussing it." In 1919, they're already discussing it. He was a ship's chandler and talked with many people. My father did not know that this power he had of imagining as God. My father did not know that this power he had of imagining as God. He could take a man or woman or a community and see them so vividly in imagining in his own living room that they became objective to him, and afterwards find them coming to his office to propose what he had inwardly set in motion. But he did not identify that power that creates his world with this supreme power that he called God. Ever since the creation of the world, his invisible nature, his eternal power, has been clearly perceived in the things that have been made. My Father saw everything as made. He discussed the program with a man, and afterward the man comes to him and proposes a deal that my Father had already closed in his imagination. But he did not identify it with God. They exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images resembling mortal man, and served the creature rather than the Creator. Served the creature rather than the Creator. You could also say serve the creation. Building little wood figurines that you hang on the wall, those are creations also. It's another way to use these words. It's very interesting. I want to add that my friend who does use Ho'oponopono, he uses it to the extent where he does say, I love you, thank you, to his prospects that he goes and visits on to propose work or price for work, or they want him to do some things. But he does give the price, but he doesn't close it like this, like Neville's father did, which is more to the completion of the event. But when he uses, my friend, the Ho'oponopono, he's just saying, I love you, thank you, but he's keeping himself in suspense. And I think he likes it that way. He likes to not know or know. In his business, he likes the variety of it, I think. So he doesn't actually close it like Neville's father did, but he does use the I love you, thank you to a great extent and gets a lot of business specifically from that. Just practicing that. Everyone here, your invisible presence is God, but if you imagine money into being and you make $1 million, suddenly you worship the million, not the power that made it possible. You enter a certain social circle and then you forget that you brought it into being by imagining, and now you think this group is what is all important. So man forgets and exchanges the glory of the immortal God for the image of a mortal man or something that vanishes. For everything visible will vanish, but you will not vanish. Everything visible will vanish, but you will not vanish. You will always say, I am. I am is not going anywhere. Your I am is not going anywhere. Everything physical will vanish. Even this great land one day will be washed by the sea, but you will not be. That which brought things into being cannot cease to be. So we are warned. I told this lady about my father, and she said, your father did that in 1919, but I will go back to 1919. And my father said, I do not want to buy a paper because I can see the headlines and they say war, capital W-A-R, exclamation point. He was so determined and convinced that he would not buy one for weeks. And when he did finally buy it, the headline said war, capitals, exclamation point. Then the lady asked if her father's attitude towards the sister's husband had determined what had happened, and whether she should continue helping her sister who was always in need. Yes, it determined what happened. But now it could be changed radically. What is a radical change of attitude? In our new vocabulary, redemption is the word that equals radical change of attitude. Give to the sister if she needs help. But then I told her that this power is all imagining, and it is one tissue with our own wonderful imagination. There's only one. We do not differ in nature or substance from it, capital I, capital T, but only in degree of intensity. If we could imagine anything in the world and not swerve and not turn and give all glory to this power called God, nothing could keep it from coming into being. God speaks to man through the language of dreams. Now let's I don't know if he's going to break it down more, but I'm going to go ahead and try and break it down a tiny bit more. That the man, the father-in-law, the son-in-law to that father-in-law in that story was not using his imagination. Therefore, the father-in-law's imagination was what the son-in-law fell into because he wasn't using his own. If you're not using your own imagination, you will be the automaton of that person who is using it. And as he described this man, he was a player in business, so he obviously kind of probably used the same idea that Neville's father used, just being forthright and just being persuasive in business, etc. And if this guy's not using his imagination, he fell right into that trap. It was a trap set by someone else. You're not using your imagination, someone else will be. That's what all the commercials on TV are about. You're sitting there, drool coming out of your mouth, looking at the tube, and they're giving you consume, consume, consume. And you fall right into these traps, and you don't realize it. That's exactly what's happening in that story. So this lady who's consulting with Neville could easily help her sister. She could easily help her brother-in-law. Easily, if that was the relationship. But it's whether or not you're going to use your imagination is a big piece of this. If you're not going to use it, somebody else is. God speaks to man through the language of dreams. But I do not have to go to sleep to dream. I can imagine something for you and desire it with all my heart. If I imagine something for another, that is God speaking to me. I do not have to see a face. There is such difference between what the churches call God and what the mystic knows is God. Blake speaks of Christianity in the last chapter of his great work, Jerusalem. He breaks it into 4 chapters, like the 4 rivers, etc., and he tells us, I give you the end of a golden string. Only wind it into a ball. It will lead you in at heaven's gate, built in Jerusalem's wall. And then he defines Christianity. Articles of faith, ? He completely discounts them. He says, I know of no other Christianity and of no other gospel than the liberty of both body and mind to exercise the divine arts of imagination. Imagination, the real and eternal world of which this vegetable universe is but a faint shadow, and in which we shall live in our eternal or imaginative bodies when these vegetable mortal bodies are no more. Eternal, imaginative bodies. Love it. No other Christianity than the right to exercise the divine arts of imagination. So I say to you, I would like so-and-so. I am close to the picture, so would you now exercise the divine art and hear so and so for me? And you say to me, will you hear something for me? Imagine you have told me that what you want is now so, and give all the glory to the power that creates in this world. I have personally done this unnumbered times. It is the only Christianity in the world. It has nothing to do with any church. The only Christianity is the liberty to exercise the divine arts of imagination. Can I do it? Who is doing it? God is doing it! ! I do not have to make any form. The supreme power of the universe is one with human imagination. If we go back to the Old Testament and take the word maker, it means imagination. Your maker is your husband. The Lord of hosts is his name. The word potter means imagination. I went down to the potter's house and he was working at his will. And the vessel in his hand was spoiled, but he worked it into another vessel such as seemed good to him. If I would only take that and use the word imagination, but the translator could not bring himself to use it. What is in my mental hand that I am making? If it is not good and I do not revise it, then I am turning my wheel and recreating that same picture. But if I am a wise potter, I will change it and hear you tell me that you now have what you desire. I will make a new vessel. Who is doing it? The potter And that is imagination. All day long, I think the same thing over and over. I am working at the wheel of recurrence. Everyone here can be the man or woman they want to be. I know it from my own family. Have you ever noticed how if you go into a business and take all the facts and estimate just how things will come out, how often they come about as you said? Who did it? You are not a prophet, but you are imagining. And the state then comes true. Not a thing is brought into being by any power outside itself. It is sustained by the activity of the one who brought it into being. So if I brought in poverty, it can only remain as long as I am conscious of being poor. The moment I cease to imagine that I am poor, then things begin to change. There was a play on Broadway called The Millionairess, and a critic wrote sarcastically that Katharine Hepburn was trying to impress us with the fact that all a pauper needs to become rich is the arrogance of wealth. He was wiser than he knew! Exclamation point. The arrogance of wealth is all he needs to stop being a pauper. You walk in a state, and it is an activity of mind, and to the degree you can sustain it, to that degree you will create it. The whole world is nothing but God, and God is imagining, and man is imagination. And we dwell in him, and he in us, and we are one. Now you try it. Take something tonight. If you are too close to your own picture, do it for someone else. And see that one as he would like to be seen by himself, and then remain faithful to it. Very big point right here. If you are too close to your own picture, that means when you are too close to your own picture means if you are too emotionally attached to the outcome. Because you can't, excuse me, I don't mean this about you personally, but if you're unable, I don't like the word can't. I try not to use it, so excuse me for that. I would prefer cannot, but I don't even like to use cannot or can't. But if you are too close to your own picture means you are emotionally attached to the outcome. And in so imagining for yourself when you're so emotional about the outcome, when it means so much to you, that's directly emotionally attached to the outcome. If you are too close to it, your own picture, and you're too emotionally involved to that outcome, then hold off on yourself, do it for someone else, and see that one as he would like to be seen by himself, and then remain faithful to it. He may never he may never know you did it for him, but that doesn't matter. It's the most wonderful, it's like the whisper of an angel in your ear when you hear the person you imagine for literally on the phone tell you exactly the words you used in your imagining. Again, I imagined this exact glass given to me by a porter on a ship. I eventually got on a ship and was handed that glass by a porter, a waiter, at the top of a hotel while overlooking the ocean in Monte Carlo, Monaco, the hairpin turn, the Fairmont Hotel, right on the roof in the restaurant. It is the most amazing thing when you hear the words, when you get handed an object that was in your mind, only there, hear the words, see the object, touch the object. It floors the heck out of you. It's going to put a smile on your face you can't believe. It doesn't matter. You don't tell. I told the story, like I said in the previous video, to the people at my table, my sister, my brother-in-law, and my wife. It didn't hit any fertile ground. My story went out there. I'm not blaming anybody. That's not the point of this. You don't need to tell anybody. You don't need to tell them you did it. You just get that smile and that warm fuzzy. And you get to a place where you realize this is coming from you. Everyone is you pushed out. Then you start to construct these wonderful constructions for all those in your garden. You start to tend your garden. That's a whole nother purpose why you're here. He may never know you did it for him, but that doesn't matter. When the thing happens so naturally, that he will never think that what you did was responsible. He has exchanged the glory of God for an image resembling mortal man. He will say he met a certain person and they influenced somebody else or recommended him, and that brought it all to pass. These things get the credit, and he forgets immortal God. I have told you the story before of a friend who came to me because he desperately needed a larger income, etc., to care for the educational needs of his family. His present bank position held no hope of advancement. I taught him what to do, and while I was absent in Barbados, he did it, and when I returned, he told me he had secured this fabulous position with the Rockefeller Foundation, where he still is. But as time went on, he is so literal-minded that he began to forget how it came about. And now he gives full credit to the man who spoke to him in church and finally asked him to come into the foundation. He, the man, is claiming the Bridge of Incidents did it and not his imagining. This man is now a powerful person in my friend's mind and is the cause of his good fortune, the one who invited him into the Rockefeller Foundation. He has transferred the glory that belongs to God to the image of a man. No matter what you are doing, can you see clearly what you want to do and carry on a conversation inwardly with a friend, which will imply that which you desire is now a fact? Then do it. For on higher levels of imagining, inner activity is revealed by inner conversation. If man would listen to what he is inwardly saying, he would know what he is setting in motion. As man walks the street, if he would pause and say, "What am I saying now?" he would find that 99% are justifying failure. But we are told, "You are without excuse, for you have seen him and his work, yet you deny it." When you hear the word God or Jesus Christ, you think of some being external to your own imagining. But there is none, for imagining is God. This is what lights every being in the world. And as you imagine, so you will become. So no matter what your present limitations are, you can start now to dream the most noble dream. And you can walk through this door tonight as though it is true, knowing that your imagining is God. There is no fiction. You can write your own novel and realize it. Even someone in a dungeon may be imagining, and who knows what he may call forth. You would think our jailers would be a lot kinder, considering what we know here. If I were in a dungeon, I would move the world if necessary to get out. And it will move for you. Neville was in a dungeon called World War II, and he got out with his imagination. A body may be physically confined, but you cannot confine God. Man only sees the proximate cause, the real cause of something you cannot see, for the invisible power is what is creating. Who knows who may convulse the world? It may even be a woman treading in the winepress. And what that means is a woman treading in the winepress is she's just treading along in the winepress, smashing the grapes. And what is she imagining? It's what her imagining is doing in the world, because others who aren't using their imaginations become automatons for that which she's creating right here in her passing, fanciful, imaginal moments. We don't realize our own power. We don't realize our own harvest when we see it. We don't realize that we put that in motion. Now you know the meaning of Father, please forgive them, for they know not what they do. Everyone here, you can be what you want to be, no matter what your dream is. I'm saying that to you, too. Everybody, anybody listening or seeing this video, you can be what you want to be, no matter what your dream is, literally. If you're willing to let God do it, God being your own imagining, you walk completely suspended above appearances, and you will become what you desire. This is the only Christianity I know. The freedom to exercise this divine art of imagining. Now, you try it. If you are here for the first time, I challenge you to disprove it. Everyone has the same power. We are all made of Him. Of course we have the same power. We all have the same imagination. It's Him. Wishing for the day and hoping for the day that we will wake up and remember and use our imagination lovingly for ourselves, for others. Can you imagine the abundance about us? Imagine the abundance all around you, all for your family, in your family, everybody. The abundance is profound. It's barely imaginable. If we all would just consider that our imagination is creating our abundance, then we go and use it. We use it wantonly. We use it foreverly. Recklessly. Everyone has the same power. Because one has a million does not make him any more a creator than you are. Be careful what you are imagining, for what you are imagining, you will create. Though it may convulse the world. I hope you have the revised version of the Bible, for it is from what I have quoted tonight. It is more accurate in meaning, if not as orally beautiful as the King James Version. That's a version I bought after I learned that Neville specifically recommended that version. You will find, a fast story about my Bible experience. In 1990, I bought, I believe, a King James Version at a Bible shop. I sat down on a bench in a park, and I don't know if I told you this before, but I sat down, I opened it up, and I go, what the heck is this? I couldn't understand it for the life of me. And I went to Catholic school growing up, very tiny amount. We went to catechism. They kicked me and my brother out because we were too independent to handle that rigid pulling of our sideburns, the whacking of our fingers with the rulers. We were way too unruly for them. And thank goodness, because they booted us out in 2 weeks. It's catechism. But we did go to church on Sundays, and we experienced that whole thing. The Bible study was usually orally fixated during Mass. So I'd hear it, but we didn't study it per se, because we didn't stay in catechism or Sunday school or the weekday school that was going at the time. So I opened that book on the bench. I bought that at a Bible store thinking I would find answers in this direction. It's about 1990. It's going to be a longer story why and how I got to that point. But looking at that book, I'm like, what the heck is this? Within 1 year is when I met my teacher, because I was looking for answers and I thought that they were going to be in those pages. Now I know that they were in those pages, but I had to go the way of my teacher who unveiled a lot of understandings through metaphysical subjects, just like Neville. Same stuff Neville went through, I went through. He was an astrologer. I did numerology very, very intensely and deeply and taught it. I did astrology and all these other fun subjects. But the main point being that I then went through my teacher and learned all these metaphysical subjects, and then I come back around, then I can understand it. And we're talking about decades of time here. I have no qualm against any of my experience. That just happens to be the way I went about it. In the interim, I did sell that King James Version off. So I go through a lot of books. I buy books, I read them, I sell them. If I kept all the books, it would really fill up my whole garage. I have a 2-car garage. It would fill it up. But I just sell them off because I don't hold on to them, except for my Seth books. I'll show you those one day. I'll video that. But this book and its value is incredible. So when Neville mentioned the new revised version, is so I bought it recently and I went ahead and hunted on eBay. I hunted a 1990 version that looks very similar to the one I had. So I got that and I have it. And I have not delved into it because I get so much from Neville, but I do possess it, so I know I can reference it now, which is wonderful. And my buddy, that friend that has the business, that he does a lot of hauling jobs for people in a retired community, and he comes across a lot of old Bibles and old concordances and things like that. So I always have him looking for me for a Strong's Concordance is one I want. You wouldn't believe what the families tell him to throw away. It's incredible. But anyway, let's get back. Revised version. You will find in Romans that recreation for it all, for after Acts, Paul lays the foundation and he states, I am a child of Abraham and one of the tribes of Benjamin. But he sees it now not as the code, but the spirit. And he sees circumcision no longer as only a physical act. He realizes that he is now a true Christian. He did not go to any church. He sees now the spirit of the law and not the letter. You cannot be born a Christian. It is a way of life that you adopt. You could be born in the Vatican with the Pope as your father, and you would not be a Christian. You can only be a Christian when you see the reality and adopt it as a way of life. The law was given to man, but they break through from the letter of the law and find the spirit of it and live by it. And that is Christianity. There are many religions based on many isms, but that is not Christianity. It is the liberty of body and mind to exercise the divine arts of imagination. This lady can change the picture for her sister's husband. I'm glad he's returning to this point because it's a very good point. She can imagine that he is now generous because now he has so much that he wants to give to her as she gave to him, and she can break the spell cast on him. I've never heard Neville say that before, and there is communities of people who practice these arts called spells, and they are just the same thing we're talking about. They are the use of imagination. If others are not using their imagination, someone who is using theirs will end up using theirs. It's a free space. You're not using it. You're going to fall right into my spell. And again, back to my wife's work of a couple years ago, she would leave for work and she would say, we have all these insane deadlines. And I would imagine her walking back in the house. After she walked out, I would imagine her walking back in and telling me the wonderful news about her deadlines all being completed and everybody's working overtime and all these people are completing tasks and doing 7 days a week and 12 hours a day and happy to do it, they were. When I imagined that, she'd come and tell me that good news and I'd be like, and she'd be telling me about all these people, they're just, and I'd go drive to that job site and with her and visit it on the weekend and whatnot, and people were just out there lovingly doing what they wanted to do, which was work and get the OT for them, but it fulfilled their place. Her imagination went out, they fulfilled that imagining of fulfilling the targeted deadline. They put in the overtime. They became the bridge of incidents for that imagining. Same thing with this woman in the wine press he's about to mention, or his mom. I know my mother, when she darned our socks, dreamed for each of us of a future of which she would be proud. I mean, how wonderful is that? Every one of us is living a noble life, and I know she dreamed it for all of us. She never spared her shoe. Wham! If you did something wrong, she left the world with her dream fixed in her mind, and it came true. We can dream for ourselves or for our neighbors, and that dream is the voice of God. For God speaks to man through the medium of a dream. Now let us go into the silence. That dream is the voice of God. What are we dreaming? What is the man or woman you dream yourself to be right now? Imagine you're in that being, living right now, that dream. If you're driving, your eyes are open. If you're not, you can close your eyes. We are imagining in the silence right now that we are the man or woman we want to be. You can choose any of the three. I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am in love and happily married. I am free. I am happy. Any of these. Doesn't take much time. This is a small practice we are putting forth. As Neville says, let us go into the silence each time. Let's do it together. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. If you're okay with closing your eyes, you're not going to believe what's going to happen as you start to close your eyes from the 3D. There's a lot to behold about you when you dream nobly for yourself. What is that man? What is that woman you dream of being? We bring it into being when we close our eyes. We close them, go into our closet, we imagine ourselves in that being. I am that I am. All right. What an amazing lecture, man. Oh my gosh. Wow. The Only Christianity. Neville Goddard, 11/10/1959. All right. We're going to see you in the next one.